Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the Elfz Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Fanatical Elfz Show. I'm your host tonight, John Tucci, and I'm along with our contributor here at the Fanatical Elfz Network, Elliot, the Village Elliot there. Welcome, Elliot. And we also have our contributor, our young contributor, Sam, all the way from down there in Texas.
Yeah, all the way in Arlington.
Arlington. Sam, we'll start with you. How hot is it in Arlington today?
Today it said it was like 108. It's very hot. It's really hot, but it's gonna be. I think there's like 3 days out of the next weekish that's not 100 degrees. So
you haven't melted yet.
No, I'm still intact right now, thankfully.
That's unbelievable.
Bless your soul. Bless your soul. Elliot, how are you tonight? Is it 108 where you're at?
No, it's pretty hot though. In Dayton, we've got some appreciably warm weather, but I like it.
Yes.
I used to be a baseball player, and we like this kind of stuff.
Really? You really like
100 degrees? I'll draw the line. That was tough to play in. I don't know how football players do it in summer camp. I don't know how that's possible.
Oh, I know. I was telling Sam, I think on a previous show that he had, about how I was dealing with the heat when I lived in Wichita, Kansas, and we had a summer where we had 53 straight days of over 100, which I think, Sam, you've said that's pretty typical where you're at.
That's normal here, yeah.
But I was thinking too, Elliot, about like the baseball stuff. Like in Wichita, they had the old Arrows stadium down there, or the Wichita Arrows used to play.
Yeah.
And they had that artificial turf, and I always wondered, in the middle of the summer on that hard artificial turf and the bright light, how hot it must have been down there for those guys. So,
yeah, I've heard stories about that where the turf gets to be like 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The air around your body is not that hot, but the turf itself absorbs heat. It's just really
it's almost like the pools too, like the swimming pool areas. Sam, I know you probably deal with this in Arlington if you go swimming around there. I know in Wichita we'd go swimming in the public pools that you couldn't walk on the concrete.
Yeah.
You'd have to run.
Somebody needs to hire me to help fix this kind of stuff. What they need to do is to invent some spectrally selective plastics that can reject the not absorb heat and allow infrared radiation to radiate efficiently. That's what they need to do. Reflect optical,
right, and
radiate infrared. This is a simple problem. Give me a contract. I'll gin up something for you.
I'm not even going to pretend to know what that means.
Well, Sam, I wanted to talk real briefly and share out again to those that are listening, because Sam has been on some of our shows in the past, and he's also invited us to some of his shows. He has his own podcast, which is called the Browns Breakdown. And he is an amazing podcaster, rising quickly. And your stuff, Sam, and we love that. We hear it. And Elliot and I are thoroughly impressed, along with the rest of the gang here at the Fanatical Elfz Network. And we've talked to Sam about doing some additional shows for us here on our network. And I know we want to attract some of those younger Browns fans. So I think that you could help a lot with that. And I also know that you're writing a little bit now for Cleveland Sports Talk. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have an article, I think, that just came out yesterday.
Wonderful.
It was yesterday or Tuesday that it came out on.
What was it called?
It was July 12th, so it was yesterday. It was the Browns receiving core is great, but how great?
Okay.
Okay, so
So I was
everybody go on
listening-
Twitter and really criticize it.
Yeah, so I was
Yes.
listening.
You don't
all
even
the-
have to read the article; just criticize by the title. That's what
I was
everybody
just
does.
listing off all the receivers and how it's not exactly supposed to be a dig on anything. It's supposed to be they're great, but how great are they?
Right. And
And
I
so-
guess Sam, I guess the question, we'll just lead with that because I know there have been some personalities in Cleveland the last couple days that have been critical of what the Browns' plan is beyond, let's say, Amari Cooper. If he goes down, then who do we have as wide receiver? But how would you answer that question?
I think the core is deep enough to withstand any injuries. I think obviously we had who did we sign? Marquise Goodwin, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So he's sitting there at the 5.
Mhm.
And so I think if someone goes down, it'll give Tillman a little bit more of a chance to have a bigger role as well. But
Yeah.
hopefully no one gets injured, obviously.
Well, let me ask you this, a follow up to that, and Elliot, if you want to jump in on this question too, with DPJ, there's been some conversation the last few days because we're a little dry on news stories here in Cleveland or across the NFL. But DPJ is going into his final year of his contract. He's increased his numbers. You and I talked about that, Sam, a couple weeks ago, every year. And so the question now becomes, there was an article recently talking about DPJ being a bust, predicting that he would be a bust this year. And so do the Browns pursue him, right? Or is he going to be a bust like this personality who wrote a random article? He suggested it because his reasoning was because of you just mentioned, like Cedric Tillman. They've just drafted him. They brought in Marquise Goodwin, and there's only one football, and his numbers aren't going to be as they were in the past. So let's start with you, Sam. What do you think about DPJ? And then Elliot, I'd like you to expand on that.
I think DPJ should. I think we're gonna re-sign him. Obviously, wide receivers are getting paid a little bit more now. I mean, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, all these people are starting to really get paid a lot of money. Obviously, we're gonna have Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is still on his rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken, and so he's gonna be getting paid some big bucks. And Donovan Peoples-Jones could be a number 1 on 10 teams. I mean, Panthers, Saints, Bucks, all 3 of those that's just 3 I could think of.
He could reunite with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, let's hope he doesn't,
go.
but I want him to stay here. But I think the Browns should pursue him as someone to re-sign because he played great last year. He obviously the 2 quarterback thing kind of messed up the stats a little, but I think it's definitely someone we're going to want to keep because he's young and I think he's got a pretty bright future.
I like that take. I really do. Elliot, what do you think?
Yeah, let me ask a really stupid question. Do you guys remember in 2020, our number 1 receiver, Odell Beckham Jr., went down and the opposing defenses completely shut down the Browns' passing attack? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? No, you don't, because it did not happen. It did not happen that way. Odell Beckham Jr. went down, and the passing output, the receiving output.
I thought you were trying to confuse me there, Elliot.
Yeah, I am trying to confuse you. I think you are confused because that did not happen. They started catching balls left and right, and the receivers got.
I thought that was a trick question, man.
It is a trick question because it's foolishness. That did not happen. What happened also, by the way, is that the number 1 receiver is not determined by the offense. It's determined by who the defense elects to cover with their best cornerback. And the opposing defenses did not elect to cover Jarvis Landry with their best corner. They elected to cover who? Okay, you got one guess. It was Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's the guy that they were scared of. And despite the fact that they were covering Donovan Peoples-Jones with their number 1 cornerback, the Browns' offense shifted into high gear. Rashard Higgins came through and did a pretty good job. Rashard Higgins was not the number 1 receiver for the Cleveland Browns. Okay, I'm a fan of Rashard Higgins, but he was not the number 1 receiver. Jarvis Landry was not the number one receiver. It was Donovan Peoples-Jones, and he did fine.
Yes.
He was actually not quite as prolific in the number one role as he was in the number two role, understandably, because he's going up against tougher competition. But he did just fine, and the Browns made the playoffs that year. The defense did not shut them down just because Donovan Peoples-Jones became the number one wide receiver. The Browns actually have very good depth on the team as it's presently constituted. I do not think that there will be a great problem. Now, obviously, you don't lose a great player, a Pro Bowl caliber player, and have zero effect when that happens. You have to look at who is going to be the number two wide receiver, who's going to be the number three guy, who's going to be the number four guy. There's repercussions all the way down the lineup. But the Browns are going to be in a good situation. They really do have depth at the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe even 7 position. They can keep on throwing people out there who are competent NFL receivers. So I think all this stuff is well and good. Okay, we don't like Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's from Michigan. We don't think he can play good this year. Why is he going to be bad this year? What's wrong with him this year? Does he have an injury, or is he on drugs? Or why is he going to fall off this year? He doesn't like Deshaun Watson. What's wrong with Donovan Peoples-Jones? Okay,
I mean, this guy's take.
Go.
This guy's take. I mean, in this article that, and I'm not sure. I think which periodical it came from, but
a lot of people that have complained about Donovan Peoples-Jones.
They basically say that he's going to be a bust. Oh, I do too. I'm just saying they're saying he'll be a bust because his numbers aren't going to be as much. Well, they might not be as much. I think he got to 800 yards. Maybe he's plus 500 or 600. Let's say, I don't know, but that's not the idea that he's a bust is just crazy. And I read that headline. I'm like, what? So anyway, so let's move on a little. Let's move on to this next topic. I wrote an article, and because I like people to read the titles of the articles, and it was
that's all I read. I don't read.
Right. It was called "Job Security: Is it Playoff or Bust for Stefanski to keep his job?" So I got an email from our colleague Joel, the left guard, who asked me if I hate Kevin Stefanski. And so that's, I think, the title of our podcast tonight. Do I hate, or no, that's one for me for tomorrow for my Johnny Cleveland podcast. Anyway, let's start with you, Elliot, first, and then go to you, Sam, second.
Okay.
Elliot, what do you think about Stefanski? I know we've talked about it. And
is the question, does John hate Stefanski, or is the question, is Stefanski going to keep his job?
Yes, the first, the latter, the second part there about Stefanski.
John obviously does hate Stefanski.
Yes, obviously.
That you can tell that just from the title of the article. But no, you never know what's going to happen in the NFL. Let me, I came up with a really fine examples. Let's go back to a guy that's been nominated or made it to the semifinals for the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton.
Yes.
Coach Marty Schottenheimer took the San Diego Chargers in 2006, I believe, led them to a 14-2 record.
Yes.
Now, after I think they were I don't know what, they had 9 wins the previous year or something like that. And so what do you think his reward was for going 14-2? Anybody remember? Sam, have you read that in your history books?
No.
What do you think happens to a guy for going, he's a great coach in Cleveland.
I'm guessing he got fired.
He got fired. Yes, absolutely. He got fired. Why did he get fired? Well, it's because he played the New England Patriots in the playoffs, and Tom Brady pulled a miracle out of an orifice of his body. And what Brady actually did was he threw an interception in the fourth quarter. I'm not kidding. This is a great play.
Okay. Yeah.
He threw an interception, but Troy Brown saved him because Brown, after he throws the interception, Brown strips the ball from the defensive player and causes a fumble. And
gets
the ball back.
Oh, my gosh.
That was Brady's clutch play, is that he threw an interception
Now,
But,
how long had
Troy Brown
how
got
long?
the ball back, so they
Yeah.
get a field goal with 1 minute left, and then San Diego had one more chance to kick a 54-yard field goal with 3 seconds left,
And
and
they
it
missed.
was short.
Oh my gosh!
So what do you do in that situation?
Right.
Well, fire the coach. Obviously, it's the coach's fault.
Right, right. It's how long had Marty been coach there? A couple of years, right? I mean,
yeah, a couple of years. I would.
So you
guess it's probably
improved
5 or 6.
14-2, and you get
14
fired.
and
Now
2.
that's
Constant
that's pretty.
improvement. Go 14-2, and then Brady works his Brady magic, wins the game by throwing an interception.
Well, let me ask you this part of the question because
So
I brought this.
You never know what's going to happen.
Elliot, I brought
don't
this.
think-
Yeah.
I don't think that Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat per se,
Okay.
but I think that I've said this before, that I think that there's a magic number for all coaches. It's not necessarily well defined, but you cannot have carte blanche to lose unlimited number of games in the NFL. There comes a point
Mhm.
where all coaches will be let go, including Bill Belichick.
Mhm. Yeah.
And,
well, I guess
it
that
depends on the size of the disaster, the
yes.
patience of the ownership. I think we should talk about who is
Well,
actually going to make the call.
Well, that's what I was going to get. That was Elliot.
The,
I mean, that's what I was getting at, Elliot. That's what I mean. That's part of my conversation in the article I wrote was about those other players, about who's making that decision. And I briefly
I hope
touched
it's
on
not the players. I hope it's ownership.
I talked about the owners, and the unusual part of this is, to me, is that we've talked about the owners, Jimmy and Dee Haslam, and their
D
decision.
And Jimmy Haslam. I think it's
Dee
will
and
make
Jimmy.
the final decision.
Right.
Dee actually is the CEO of Haslam Sports, and I don't think it's a fictitious title.
No. Okay.
I think that
so
they
let's
decided among themselves that she is the more rational, the less emotional of the two. And
so do you think
he has the final say so?
Yeah.
And she likes Stefanski. Now Jimmy is very volatile, and he might wake up one morning and say, "Man, I'm going to fire the coach. I'm going to fire."
Okay, but Elliot,
but he is not going to do that. She's say, "Jim, settle down, calm down. You need my signature to fire somebody, and I'm not signing the paperwork."
Let me ask you this part though.
Say so.
We talked about this the last episode, that the fact that Dee and Jimmy held on to Hugh Jackson.
No, that was at that time.
Okay.
Jimmy had final says. They had not made that decision. That was Jimmy's call. And that was something that Dee absolutely went in and changed. Is no, we're not having offensive coordinators with more authority than the coach. We're going to know who works for who. We're going to have a chain of command like in the military.
Okay.
And we're going to know who it is that everybody reports to. And we're not going to change lines of authority in midstream.
Okay.
And it's going to be clear to all what their role is, what their assignment is. That's she overhauled the front office. That was not Jimmy who did that.
All right. So let me just jump over to Sam real quick here. Sam, Elliot's given us a lot of detail here, and I think good information as far as how how it would work as far as a decision. What are you thinking as far as, like, there is a number, like Elliot is saying? What do you think that number is? Do you think there's, like in the article I wrote about playoffs or bust, basically I'm suggesting that is that the bar that we're setting, that the Browns need to make the playoffs? If they don't, again, they finish under 500 like they had the last 2 seasons. Does that mean that Stefanski's still safe? Sam, what do you think?
I think Stefanski is definitely a playoff or bust kind of thing right now. I mean, the team's so it's like just so filled up now. I mean, the D tackle room was fixed with Dalvin Tomlinson fixed. We still need like one more guy. But the whole defensive line, Zadarius Smith now, obviously. Amari, DPJ had a breakout season. Njoku was great. We have Cedric Tillman. I've seen multiple, I think PFF obviously PFF hasn't had the best takes ever, but they had us as like the second best offensive line. I was
Okay.
listening to the radio today, and they said the Browns were like top 5 in offensive line. So the
Mhm.
offensive line is really good.
Mhm.
I think we were 5th place. So the offensive line is great. It really all hinges on Watson because obviously he had a bad season
Mhm.
last year. Statistics wise, he didn't have a good chance to have a good season. But I think it really all hinges on Watson. I think if 7 wins, he's gone. 8 wins, it's kind of a coin toss. 9 wins, I would say 75% chance he stays,
Mhm.
and 10 plus is probably one more season.
Yeah, and I think Elliot, we've all talked about this too many times. That first 4 game stretch and having the bye so early in the season, everyone is gearing up for that first 4 games of the season. We play all 3 teams in the division, and I mean it's going to be magnified. I just sense. I mean, it's going to be the summer, and getting that maybe a home win, hopefully against the Cincinnati Bengals, who we've had success under Stefanski. That he's 5-1 against them, as since he's come into the league in 2020. So I think, I'm projecting that the Browns will make the playoffs. And the article that I wrote didn't necessarily say that he would be fired. I just basically just said, what is the bar? What is there a bar? And I think, Sam, I like your numbers there. I think that makes some sense. Elliot, what do you think about that? What do you think of those numbers? Do you think there's more risk if he doesn't get to that 7 wins, or do you think if he wins 6 games that he's still safe?
I think it depends on why you only won 6 games. If there's an injury, let's hope that there's
not
an injury.
Not knock on wood here.
if for some reason Deshaun Watson and Myles Garrett are not available, and
Drink
the team
Diet Coke, everybody
goes 6 wins, that's different than if they are available and they have 6 wins.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to evaluate the circumstances. It's if it's a team that plays up to its potential, and the potential is 6 wins, I think probably he would.
Okay.
But
okay. All
sometimes
right.
there's extenuating circumstances. But I don't think that D is a kind of person that will pull the plug. I think what would ultimately decide the fate of Barry and Stefanski is if they reach the point where they can no longer fund the current group of people. And I'm not sure if it's 2015 or 2016, but eventually the salary cap games are going to come to an end, and they're going to have to start cutting players.
But there's no cap. Come on now, Randy, our editor-in-chief says.
I know there's no salary cap. Well, why are the Browns getting all these players on the cheap if there are no salary cap? Only for other teams have salary cap. But someday the Browns will find that there is a salary cap, and they will have to make salary cap cuts just like every other team in the NFL.
We are going to take a quick break, guys. We're going to go pay the bills here for the Fanatical Elfz show, and we will be right back. Okay, we are back on the Fanatical Elfz show, and we've been discussing up till now a little bit about Stefanski and if his job is safe. We're going to transition a little bit to some of the players on our team, some of our highlighted players like Deshaun Watson, like Nick Chubb, like Coach Stefanski, like Myles Garrett. And I want to get just a brief take on if you think that these players, where they rank in the NFL. My question is,
let me ask you a question. This question.
Yes.
Silly question. Let's suppose that the Browns did win 6 games.
Okay.
Do you think that players like Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb, these Hall of Fame trajectory players, would stay with the Cleveland Browns, or would they ask to be traded?
Again, I think it goes back, Elliot, to your thought earlier before the break that you have to look at the circumstances leading into that 6 games. If Watson, for example, gets hurt, and that has a bearing on what happens. I think. I mean, personally, I think if that were to if projecting, not knowing any of the circumstances, I'm going to guess that Nick Chubb would stay. But he would want to stay, but I don't know if the Browns would want to keep him around, right? Doesn't he come? He could get that extension anytime between now and isn't he a free agent?
I think those players would be gone, and I think that
Yeah,
there would be no sensible path to the playoffs without Chubb and without Garrett. So the Browns better win. Winning is very, very important.
Well, let me go. Sam, let's start with you on this question about Deshaun Watson. Top 10 quarterback in the NFL, yes or no?
I think no, but I think he's really close.
Okay. Elliot, what do you think? Top 10 or not?
Yeah, I think I agree with Sam. He's right around number 10. There's enough uncertainty in that estimate. It could go either way.
Okay, Nick Chubb. Elliot, what do you think? Top 10? Top 5?
Top one.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little too low. Number one.
Yeah.
Number one,
I think
yes.
Nick Chubb is fabulous. And the main concern that I have about Nick Chubb is I don't think they throw him the ball enough.
Can I ask you this question, Elliot? Let me throw this out at you. And Sam, if you want to jump into, we're talking about Nick Chubb, but there's a free agent out there. And maybe we've talked about this in other shows. We don't necessarily need to go out and get another free agent, but Delvin Cook is still out there from the Minnesota. Used to play for the Vikings. Very veteran guy, has caught a lot of passes. When you look at his statistics, it reminds me of looking at somebody like Kareem Hunt, but Delvin Cook was a lot better running back.
Oh yeah.
So he's available. He's out there. And I just, people talk about Ezekiel Elliott, but there's Delvin Cook out there. And I'm wondering if would the Browns even consider that, or have they considered that? What do you think there, Elliot? And Sam, you too. I want to hear your take.
I think that Dalvin Cook is worth a multi-year contract, and that he may be out of the Browns' price range.
Okay,
but you would never say no to a player like that. I think, what kind of makes me want to toss my cookies is that if you throw the name of any wide receiver out there, the Twitter response is, "Oh yeah, we got to go sign this guy."
Yeah,
if he costs $50 million a year or whatever, oh yeah, let's go. We'll cut, Myles Garrett or whatever so we can afford him. Yeah, let's get rid of defensive players. Just sign a wide receiver. We need one more.
DeAndre Hopkins. That's right. We need DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, well, I do think DeAndre Hopkins might sign with the Browns. As a matter of fact, he's going He's going to sign with some NFL team. And the fact of the matter is, all NFL teams have starting wide receivers already. But he will sign with an NFL team, and I think the Browns are probably the best match. But anyway, but the point is that you also have a running backs room, and a lot of the running backs rooms are thin. Like you have one running back that you're sure of, and then two or three other guys that you're not very sure of at all.
Sure,
my Twitter traffic, everybody really reamed me for saying that. Look, our best guy for running back 2 had 12 yards from scrimmage last year. And we are filled with confidence that this guy that had 12 yards from scrimmage, we're sure that he can replace a former Pro Bowl running back.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes.
We don't need any other running back. We don't need to look at anybody,
Yes.
We're going with this guy to the prom. We don't need to look at anybody else.
Do you like Delvin Cook, Sam? Have you done any research on Delvin?
I think he's decent. I think he's someone we could sign. I don't see it happening. But he's a good player. I think he is starting to get a little older. Obviously, the running back market is it's just falling apart right now. But I think he could be someone who I think a lot of people would be annoyed if the Browns signed. I don't really have an opinion. I think he'd be a fine player to sign. And to keep just basically, I think the best reason to sign him would be to not overwork Chubb, because he had that little obviously last season Kareem Hunt was not good at all, but
Mm-hmm.
Kareem Hunt was having like 10-yard games on average.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think Cook would be someone who would be just someone to take the load off of Chubb, so you don't just run him into the ground and destroy him.
But Elliot, you think though? I mean, I'm thinking as well that the Browns are going to utilize Chubb, or at least that's what's being indicated, more in the passing game, like they were doing with Hines.
Yeah, I've been seeing that for a few years. I'm sort of right that he did use Chubb more in the passing game. But here's what you need to know about Dalvin Cook. I'm reading this from the Spotrac.com website. Dalvin Cook signed a 5-year, $63 million contract with the Minnesota Vikings, including a $15.5 million signing bonus. So that's the kind of money that we're talking about for Dalvin Cook. He's only 27 years old. He's not an old man. But yeah, he's a multi-year contract. He is a premier talent.
What year is he? He's
27 years old.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that so he is a free agent.
He's the same age as Myles Garrett.
But the contract
they cut him. They cut him because
that's what they did.
Of the salary cap.
Yeah.
There is no salary cap. They made a mistake and cut him by. It was a complete accident.
I want you to have that conversation with Randy. I'm going to start that tomorrow.
How could that be? How could they have cut him when there's no salary cap? I don't understand. It's a mistake. They just made a mistake. They cut him by mistake. It made perfect sense to cut him because they did need to, they're paying.
Well, I just think, the one thing I noticed about Dalvin Cooks and his stats and everything is, and I know he's expensive, but boy, that's
worth it.
But he would be worth it. I mean, he's the kind of guy that could do a lot coming out of the backfield, kind of like Cream did. And like you said, he's 27. I think it would be a fantastic move. And the Browns still have some wiggle room with that, cap space. Okay, let's jump to Amari Cooper. Sam, what top 10 outside the top 10? Amari Cooper, wide receiver.
I think he's top 7 probably.
Oh, okay.
Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. I don't know, AJ Brown. You might be able to slide him in there. CeeDee Lamb.
Okay, nice.
But Amari Cooper, I think Amari Cooper, you could put him in there.
Wow, top 7. I like that. Ellie, what do you think? Top 10?
Yeah, I think he's somewhere around there. You have to look at that. Oh, well, you can't believe his stats because he had Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait, what? So,
yeah.
So I think you probably do believe his stats, right? He did not have a premier passing game situation last season. And who was his number 2 helper in the wide receiver room?
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Donovan Peoples-Jones. Oh, okay. Well, so yeah, no, I think he's a tremendous wide receiver.
I think he finished with almost 1,200 yards receiving, right? Last year, 1,100.
Yeah, he was way up there. So
he had the most touchdowns of his career. He had 10. Remember, Sam? We talked about that on your show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he was the guy that made the defensive backs pee in their pants, all season long.
Right.
And
okay, last one here, Myles Garrett. Where do you rank him? Number 1?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Number 1.
Number 1. Okay.
Number 1.
He's the only other guy you could say would be I can't think of his name right now, but there's like one guy whom Micah Parsons or Nick Bosa. Those two are the only people who have a chance of contending with him for best defensive end.
The thing is, we've never seen Myles Garrett go one-on-one with an offensive lineman, have we?
No, and I think that was it was interesting because I know some of the folks over at ESPN were talking about Myles the other day because they talked about his leadership or his lack thereof or he's a quiet guy. But they also were talking just about the idea that, Zadarius Smith and some of these other guys coming in, Delvin Tomlinson, that, that what you just said, Garrett's going to probably get some more opportunities to go one-on-one, and it could be a fabulous season for the young man. I mean, he's
No,
already.
he is not. He is still not going 1-on-1. He's going to go
Yeah.
1-on-2 all year
Forever.
And I'll
long.
still beat him.
He's still going to beat him, but he's going to get some tremendous opportunities for Zadarius Smith. So Zadarius Smith is going to have to take Myles Garrett out to dinner. I hope that Zadarius Smith will do the driving.
Hey, let me ask you this quick question to both of you. And Elliot, I'll start with you. Our colleague over at Dog Pound Daily, I don't talk about Greg much, but Greg Newland wrote an article about 3 narratives that are not necessarily true. And one of them, he talked about Jim Schwartz, our new defensive coordinator, and everybody in town is saying, well, we got Jim Schwartz now, the defensive coordinator. We're going to have a great defense. And Greg basically said, hold the phone. Don't, it's maybe not. How confident are you with Jim Schwartz?
I'm probably not the best person to ask because I am not a former player. I really am not a.
We need the left guard.
Yeah, we need the left guard to speak more intelligently to that. But I'll tell you what, though, I would put it this way: is there's so much talent on the field, and especially on the defensive line, that it's very hard to screw it up. The thing is that we are taking players that last year were ranked below second string.
Yeah.
And we're replacing them with people that are close to Pro Bowl caliber. And so the differential in talent is extremely high. And if you want to do is to try to calculate how much you think that they push the point spread. When you take out a guy that's like below second string and you put in a guy that's a premier player,
yes,
this stuff adds up. I've done my own calculations and so on.
Yes,
and I think that the Browns personnel is actually the best in the division. I actually like the Pittsburgh Steelers a little bit better because they've played as a team longer.
Right.
They also have very comparable personnel, by the way.
By the way, we're speaking of, and I'll jump to Jim, back to you, Sam, in just a minute. But Elliot, I'm coming out on tomorrow, maybe, or the next day with the Dog Pound Daily. Just throwing out a few extra names on the defensive tackle position that are still free agents, potentially, if the Browns want to pick somebody up. And one of those guys is Chris Wormley from the Steelers. Formerly, you're shaking your head.
No.
What?
No, he's not really available because he had an ACL injury late in the year.
Right. No, I know that. And that was my question, is because that's been circulating that he will be available, but like he won't be available at the beginning of the season, and that what teams would be looking at that. The Pittsburgh, there's some articles about him going back to Pittsburgh. And I didn't know if you thought at all there'd be no chance the Browns. That he was traded. Not that you might already know this. He was a second round pick by the Baltimore Ravens several seasons ago, back in 2017, 2018. 2017. He was traded from Baltimore to the Steelers in divisional trade, which I thought was interesting.
That's a little bold, yeah. No, I don't. If I were his agent, I would not do that because you really want to have a full year of recovery typically for an ACL injury. So if he did come back, he would be coming back in like December and
they were projecting they were projecting 9 months. A lot of the material I've been reading that they thought that he could be back by October. So
that's really kind of pushing it, I think. I don't.
Well, the other name out there is
expert, but few players have. Some players have been able to do that, but
Sam, and maybe
you need the money that bad. I think he'd be better off sitting out the entire season, healing up.
What about Shelby? What about Shelby Harris? When Denver Broncos then played last year with Seattle, he was in that trade with.
I don't know.
Wilson.
I don't know Shelby well enough to comment intelligently about it.
Okay,
I'll tell you what. The thing that I think is very intriguing is the possibility that Aaron Donald might be on the trading block.
Yes.
And then again,
him.
They're
going to want too much for him.
That's salary cap move. Oh, that's right. There is no such thing as a salary cap. So that couldn't happen.
Sam, let me get your. Yeah, I'm sorry. Back to you, Elliot. I'm sorry.
Aaron Donald does not want to play for a team that's guaranteed to lose a whole bunch of games this season.
And didn't Aaron Donald throw a helmet and didn't get any discipline for that during a scrimmage?
Didn't he choke someone out too?
So he's done some stuff like
That
well,
happened
okay,
once?
you know, well, I was going to make a bad joke. I bite my tongue about.
Well, we're going to have our joke segment coming up here on the Steelers stuff. So hang on to that, Elliot. Sam, real quick, just your take on Jim Schwartz. Is he being over publicized? And defensive tackle.
One thing, a little off topic, I'd like to add. PFF, I know I said they aren't the best, but they had Amari Cooper as the 22nd best wide receiver. Their top 7 was it was Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, and AJ Brown. So that was those were the
Cooper
top
was
7
22.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
They had him below people like Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Godwin was above him. Yes, I feel like
because Tampa Bay had big yards.
Yeah. What do you think about Schwartz there, Sam?
I think Schwartz is probably going to make the team better. I think the defense will get better with him, but I think there's a lot of things that are he's already getting inserted into a good defense. I mean, like we said, Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson. We have a couple good Denzel Ward. He's already getting inserted into a pretty good defense. So I feel like all he has to do is make them learn the game plan and bond with them. Really, I feel like it's the two things that he needs to do. I don't think he's over publicized. He probably it's a new defensive coordinator. The media is going to automatically already try and get draw as much out of it as they can. But so you could say he's over publicized, but I think he's going to be an important piece because Jim, our last defensive coordinator, was not the best.
Sam, I'm switching gears to you. You're gonna be the host real quick. We were talking off air. I have some news about the Browns that some Browns have partaked in.
Yeah, I heard that they're having like some weddings.
Yes, Sam. Several of the Cleveland Browns, it's a love boat. Just romance everywhere. I'm a little worried, there were 3 Browns players in the last few weeks, 3 of them who have tied the knot. And I have a few, I went ahead and did some research. I know Elliot was a little bit blown away by that, but I had a little downtime and I was doing Entertainment Tonight and what are all those other, shows, trying to get all the latest gossip. And let me tell you, Sam, and I don't know how much you do research on the internet, but man, you can find a little bit of everything. So, so the 3 guys that got married on the Browns were Harrison Bryant, the tight end, our new safety Juan Thornhill, and our defensive tackle, Tommy Togiai. Yes,
Ohio State boy.
So Harrison Bryant, I looked up Harrison Bryant's wedding stuff, and there were news articles, and the best one was that Harrison and his new wife is Sydney. They had their, how some of these youngsters now, they put out all of their invites online. Like they have these wedding websites where that you can sign up and invite the guests and RSVP and put out your list of things that you want other guests to buy. And so Harrison and his wife, Sydney, I'm sure Sydney was the one who put this together. Theirs is like for everybody to see. So if you type in Harrison Bryant marriage, it just pops up and you can read about their romantic story and when they first met. And they both went to school. I'll just give you a little synopsis here. They went to Florida Atlantic International University. They both met there. Sydney was an athlete as well. I don't know if it was which sport, volleyball or something like that. So they met in college. They've been dating all that time. And they got married on June 24th down there, Sam, in McKinney, Texas. Do you know where McKinney, Texas is, Elliot?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think
Where-
it's like 30 minutes from us.
Oh, well, you should have gone to the wedding. It was June 24th. Well, you
I didn't
missed
know
out
he-
because here's some of the finer details, Sam. This is great.
Ooh, I'm a little
So
far
they
off.
have that they had a registry, you know, where they can go shop, or like if you or I, like we could go on there right now, Sam. We could go on the website, you and I and Elliot, and we could buy them a gift. And we could send it from the Fanatical Elfz network. Anyway,
That's
they
a good
have
idea.
signed. They have signed up for the Amazon. I thought this would be good for you on the football philosophy and rocket science for you and the left guard to discuss this, because this website is just beautiful, and I'm going to forward it to you. So they have you can go.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Well,
I think John got too excited and pushed the wrong button, obviously. So we're going to have to do this
Oh,
ourselves.
he's back. He's coming back.
We'll be back, but we have to.
I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button.
Got too excited.
I know. So Amazon, they have you can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
good, you're
So
good.
Amazon, Crate and Barrel, they also have a honeymoon fund. Elliot, I think we should submit some money to that part of their registry, and we'll sign off the Fanatical Elfz network to their honeymoon fund. So we don't know where they're going yet for their honeymoon. But here's the best part. They rented a 56 passenger
Yacht?
bus for
No.
their family and friends from the hotels. Isn't that nice? They had a 56 passenger bus for all their participants in the wedding. And so I just thought that was very, very detailed. Okay. So that's the first group that got married. All right. So, and you know, I don't know about you, Elliot or Sam, but you know, when you think about Harrison Bryant, you know, clean cut, tall guy, it seems kind of what you might expect it personally. Yeah. Okay. Let me go on to the next guy, Tommy. Okay. Tommy Tagawa, right? Togiai. Tommy and his fiance, who goes by the name of, let me find it here. I had it. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, Allie. Her name is Allie, Alle. Okay. They eloped. There you go. They eloped. They did not have a formal wedding yet, but they eloped in Hawaii, and they spread the news via Instagram. And our good friend who was out late partying with Greg Newsom, Perry and Winfrey, was commenting as well on the wedding party and saying that's dope when he found out that Tommy got married and they eloped. So some wonderful pictures of them in front of a Hawaiian waterfall. Now, I saved the best for last. This is our new Cleveland Brown player, Juan Thornhill, who came from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, let me tell you, Juan Thornhill, I don't know about you, Elliot, but you get the sense that Juan Thornhill is going to be, he's a talker, and he likes the camera on him. And he certainly did a big production for his engagement. He got engaged back in October, and down in Savannah, Georgia, he married a young lady named Reagan Steele, and he put on quite the show. She owns a boutique store called Sparkle and Rays. This Reagan girl does. You can look on it online if you know any young ladies or would do some shopping. It's a wonderful little boutique shop. So she did this whole shindig, and then he had a big sign made up at the edge of the river down in Savannah saying, "Will you marry me?" And they have all these wonderful professional photographs taken. So that was the engagement. That was back in October. And then in the last week, I think on July 1st, they got married. And you might ask, where did they get married?
Where did they get married?
Well, they did it up big. They went out to the PGA National Resort out there in California. And let me tell you, seeing some of the thing, they put some photos on Instagram as well and on Twitter. They did it up very well. Very fancy place, the PGA National Resort. I'm guessing, I don't know if that's it's Pebble. Was it Pebble Beach or Palm Springs out there is where the PGA National Resort is. So they really did it up big. And here's the last little tidbit on them, which I thought I started doing some scrolling, and Reagan, who now is married to Juan, they've been dating for 7 years, and she was on a recent podcast. I didn't catch the whole name. Oh, it's called
Was it our podcast?
No, it wasn't. But let me tell you, I just wanted, for the record, if you're anybody out there listening to our
podcast, we ought to invite her.
I'm thinking that, but here's the reason I think we would do a much better job. Granted, the young lady that did the podcast, she was okay. But let me say, folks, we are really a good podcast. And if you come listen to us, you're going to hear some real professional, some real contributors that really know their stuff. And anyway, so I digress. So they did this podcast. I listened to it for about 10 minutes. And let me tell you, it wasn't like listening to the Fanatical Elfz show. And after talking about her past and her growing up when she was a kid and what kind of food she liked, I was like, okay, that's enough. I don't think I need any more. So, but it is nice. Juan Thornhill now is married to this Reagan. She seems like a very nice young lady. So congratulations to the Cleveland Browns players. Hopefully that's a good sign of things to come. Maybe that means Super Bowl. I don't know. Anyway, what do you think about that, Sam? You're a little bit young right now to get married, but are you
a little bit?
Yeah. So of the three, let me ask you this, Sam. So of those three different things that we heard of, like the one where they were sort of Harris and Brian and more kind of organized and had a whole registry. Then you had the elope group, and then Juan Thornhill, who did the big shindig. Which do you think you'd like?
Which one was the PGA?
That's the one that did it up big. Yeah, Juan Thornhill.
Yeah, I want to go there.
I like that. Nice.
Yeah, I'm not a big golf guy. I like I'm trying to get into basically every sport. I watch. I don't have the time really for every sport, so I really focus on the NFL and the MLB.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna try and dig into the NHL a little and college football a little. But I think I think it would be awesome to go to Pebble Beach or Palm Springs.
Oh, excellent. I'm switching. Elliot.
So I went to the Pro the Pro Golfing Association Hall of Fame this past January.
Oh,
just because I was at a conference that they just decided to have it there. And it was really
Where was that? Tell me where that was.
It was on somewhere around Cocoa Beach, but it was not Cocoa Beach. But
okay, so out in California.
No, Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
See, I get that. All right, let me switch gears with you guys. Let's talk a little history. Our history lesson this week, we had three guys that are now former Cleveland Browns, and that actually you spoke of one of them earlier, Elliot, that are now semifinalists again for the Hall of Fame. One of them is Clay Matthews, who has been in this position before, and the other two are Art Modell, former owner.
Are you kidding me?
And Marty Schottenheimer, just the greatest Browns coach outside of Sam Tigliano. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sam, did you know that they were all three? They were semifinalists.
I didn't hear about Art Modell.
I think Clay Matthews. He's the only guy I actually know, but I
you
think
should
Clay
know
Matthews,
that. That's good. I'm glad you know Clay Matthews.
Clay Matthews will probably make it at some point.
He's got to, right?
He was the strangest thing.
Nobody's done it like Clay Matthews for as good as he was and as long as he played.
Yeah,
I know. There's nobody like Clay Matthews.
He was. So I was a bit younger. I was much younger. I didn't have a fully developed memory, so I wasn't remembering these things. But I remember him being good, and then I have no memory of him leaving. He just in one memory he's a great player, and the next memory he's gone.
Well, the last year
that's his son. You're remembering his son.
You're thinking of his son, yeah, because Clay Matthews, yeah. So we're talking
different Clay Matthews. Yeah,
no,
my
it's
bad.
it's good. No, it's funny because his children played the game and they were excellent ball players.
And his dad played. Everybody named Matthews played pro football.
But I did research that Clay Matthews a little. I think he probably should also go too.
Yeah, he played a position like linebacker, right? Kind of a
linebacker
hybrid, yeah. And the fact that he didn't get to, they got to some playoff wins, and he made that. He had so many great moments for the Browns.
Is the Hall of Fame for individuals or is it for teams? If it's for teams, then you can blame the team for not making the Super Bowl. I don't know that it's fair to blame one player for not making the Super Bowl. I don't think that makes any sense.
Let me ask you that. Okay, so let me throw this at continuing with our little history lesson here. I was my wonderful mother-in-law, Barb. She sent me. She was at the Hall of Fame in Canton this week, and she sent a letter. Made a copy of a letter. Showed me a letter that from Lamar Hunt, who used to be in charge, or Lamar Hunt Sr., who was in charge of the old AFL league that the Browns were in prior to 19.
No. The Browns were in the NFL.
They were in the NFL. Okay.
Yes.
So they were. The letter came from Lamar, basically saying that, suggesting to the NFL, can we have a Super Bowl starting in the 1964 season? And he specifically in this letter uses an entire paragraph to talk about the dominance of the former Cleveland Browns teams, that how they dominated so much in the old AFL, and then when they came into the NFL, how they were still, doing so well.
No, that's the AAFC, the All-America Football Conference, 1946, 47, 48, 49. Okay. That was a different league. Yes.
Well, the letter,
that's not the same as the AFL.
Okay.
Three leagues are being just talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. So Elliot, which one am I supposed? Let me go back and look at the letter because I know I wanted to kind of read the one paragraph. Because
Lamar Hunt is representing the American Football League, which began in 1960, and he's talking about the Cleveland Browns, who dominated the All-America Football Conference.
So he used them as an example.
1946 until 1949.
Yes.
That's what he's drawing.
So he's referring to the Browns, but in this yes. So he's
never
referring
any championship.
And the fact is that now, all this time has passed, and the Browns, who were talked about in a letter talking about the Super Bowl, have never been to a Super Bowl. And so
I don't know.
But there was no women. What year was the letter written?
It was 1963.
Yeah, so there was no Super Bowl.
Correct.
At the time the letter was written.
No, correct. And that's what I'm saying is that because of even like the suggestion in the letter about the Browns' dominance and just the idea that they have not been to a Super Bowl, it's just funny. It's the odds, who would have thunk, I'm sure folks in 1963, if we were to talk to them today in 2023, would be like, the Browns have not gone to a Super Bowl yet. So
yeah,
just really staggering to me. Elliot, no, you don't find that staggering?
Mm-hmm.
No, he doesn't.
I could, no. Okay.
Why? Because Art Modell. I can explain everything. Art Modell. Art Modell.
That's enough. I mean, us older Browns fans know it. I mean, yeah. Go ahead, Elliot. You got 1 minute. 2.
Well,
maybe.
I mean, Art Modell traded Paul Warfield.
Yep.
One All-Pro, traded Ron Johnson, second All-Pro, traded Clifton McNeil, another All-Pro, got absolutely nothing in return. He was his own general manager, called his own shots. He ran Jim Brown out of town in 66. Jim Brown didn't want to retire.
Yeah, no, I got you. And that's why, we're talking about Art Modell too being a semifinalist. And, for a lot of his older fan base, it's just like why we loathe him. I've had this conversation with younger fans, and Sam, maybe you don't know a lot about Art Modell, but there's been some other younger Browns fans, not you per se, who want to try to give Art Modell credit. Now, obviously, we're a Browns podcast, but and he did some things in Baltimore. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl, and but it's what he did while he was here in Cleveland, and how he then took the team from Cleveland in 1995.
He was a key force to create Monday Night Football, and for that reason, the NFL likes him.
Yes,
but for what he did as a general manager, he was appalling. I mean, come on.
But Sam, you probably what do you know about Sam or about Art Modell?
Sam,
what do you know about
I quickly did a little search on him. I don't know. I didn't know much about Art before. Right now, I did a quick little search. I don't know.
You probably can Google my latest article on Art Modell too. I did one on him and Paul Brown recently. So.
He probably didn't seem like the best general manager, but he seemed like a guy who did good stuff for just the NFL as a whole.
See, and that's the thing, Elliot. See, that's the thing. It's like if you get outside of Cleveland, and Sam basically just sort of, and like what you also said just about Monday Night Football, the rest of the league, he's going to go into the NFL Hall of Fame before Clay Matthews.
No, he's not. He is absolutely not. We're going to burn down the Hall of Fame before he gets to go in.
By the way, I heard it's really
happen.
Okay,
it is not going to happen.
Okay,
it's just not going to happen.
I didn't say it would. I was just kind of like guessing.
It's not going to happen. Okay. All right. You have to imagine the Hall of Fame is in Ohio. It cannot happen.
Yes. I agree with you there. And it's too close to. I mean, the Hall of Fame is next to Massillon. That's the birthplace of Paul Brown. And
it's impossible.
Yeah.
The NFL would have to be insane to try to induct Art Modell into the Hall of Fame within driving distance of Cleveland. You'd have to wait 300 years in order to even attempt.
Well, let's switch topics. Let's do a little joke segment here before we go tonight. We just do you have that joke with you, Elliot? And then
I want to get your I thought Art Modell was a pretty good joke. I do have a joke.
Okay.
Okay.
I've exhausted you tonight.
Okay. Well, all right. So, this joke is not original. I apologize to whoever made this joke up, but I took this from the internet. An old man stumbles into a bar after already having had a few. Once inside, he slides up to the bar and orders a shot of whiskey. To the class of 75, he yells, holding the glass aloft. And next to him, an old drunk raises his glass. To the class of 75. Hey, where are you from? Asked the first man. And the second, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You don't say. I'm from Pittsburgh. So, you a Steelers fan? Of course I'm a Steelers fan. What about you? Yeah, big Steelers fan. All right. Well, what high school did you go to? Asked the second man as he orders another round. Well, Baldwin High School on Clairton Boulevard. You're kidding. I went to Baldwin High. So the two guys toast the coincidence and sling an arm over each other's shoulders as they begin to reminisce about the old days. Hey, Jeet Jet, how about a jumbo sandwich? Yeah, that's nice. My favorite, too. Bar regular walks in and calls out to the bartender, hey, what's going on? So, nothing, the bartender says. The Johnson twins are drunk again.
We love your Steeler jokes. We love your Steeler jokes. Thank you, Elliot, for that. Final take tonight before we let everybody go. We've gone over an hour tonight, so this is quite the event. Sam, you've brought us all together to entertain the world. Sam, what are your final takes? And again, give a shout out. We want to promote your show, the Browns Breakdown. tell us before you leave. Tell us where we can find you. But final thoughts on the Browns going into the training camp.
Well, I did a little podcast yesterday on the top 5 people to keep an eye on, and I did number 1, Deshaun Watson. Number 2 was Elijah Moore. Number 3 was Dalvin Tomlinson. Number 4 was Cedric Tillman. Number 5 was Zadarius Smith.
Oh, I like you threw in Cedric Tillman. I like that.
Yeah, and I think Cedric Tillman and Dalvin Tomlinson could be interchanged. But I think obviously Watson is going to be the most paid attention to because he's playing the most important position in the entire NFL. I think Elijah Moore is going to be getting paid attention to because he's playing a top 3 position in the NFL. He also got traded for. He has been kind of lackluster last season, but it's really to no fault of his own because he was playing with Mike White and Zach Wilson, who definitely aren't the best. And Dalvin Tomlinson obviously is supposed to be the remedy for this defensive tackle room, which was one of the biggest weaknesses last year. Cedric Tillman, he's a big, strong guy who can really like shove defenders around, and I think he's going to be a good piece for the Browns in the next 5 years. And then obviously Zadarius Smith filling that defensive end 2 role, because that role is defensive end in its own is important. And I don't even know who the DE3 is. And so it's important that we have a good defensive end. And Zadarius Smith was good last year. He had those wasn't it like 7 sacks in 7 games in the first 7 games or something? And then obviously the whole defensive line of the Vikings kind of fell off a little throughout the end of the season. But I think he'll be good still. So I think those are definitely the top 5 people I would pay attention to in training camp.
And where can we hear you again, Sam? When's your next podcast coming out?
My next podcast probably is in 2 weeks from last Wednesday, so the 26th. It's just hard to find things to talk about. But with training camp, I probably will be able to find stuff. But yeah, Browns breakdowns. It's on everything except for Apple because I don't own Apple. Are you on
Twitter too? You have a Twitter account? No. Okay. No. Okay. We really love having you, Sam, on our show, and I know we're going to continue to have you get more involved with our Fanatical Elfz network, and we're so excited about that. So thank you again, Sam, for being here. Elliot, final thoughts.
Our number 3 defensive end is Ogbonia Okoronkwo.
Oh yeah, him. My bad.
Good.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
Really good.
He's really good. Yeah,
he's good enough to start on most teams.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
He will be used quite a bit, and I like the idea of having a rotation of defensive ends. That's going to make everybody better. Yeah.
Thank you, Elliot. Folks, thank you again for following us on the Fanatical Elfz show tonight. And we're part of the Fanatical Elfz network, part of Fans First Sports Network. We all contribute. I know Sam contributes to Cleveland Sports Talk. I do as well sometimes. Elliot and I also contribute to Dog Pound Daily. And come read our writings online. We'd love for you to read and comment and criticize us. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for a great show. Stay tuned. We're going to have another we did not have a giveaway this week on our show, but we are going to be doing another giveaway next week. So stay tuned to that. If you have anybody that's a friend or a family member, tell them about our podcast. Tell them to join us on Apple and Spotify. Follow us, subscribe to us, and you'll never miss a show, and we would really appreciate it. So our numbers are going up, and we're excited because we have you to follow along and spread the word. More things to talk about as we get closer to the Browns training camp in a week. Take care, everybody. This is the Fanatical Elfz Network. Goodbye. Go Browns. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe, or maybe not. I gotta find the music. Where's our music? We're still live. We don't have the music. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Here's the music. All right.